Hey guys, welcome to another segment of BAM. This is Brian and Being Anxious, Anxious Me. So today what I want to talk about is Helen Palmer's personality enneagram. Basically, it's 9 personalities that gives us an indication of our psychological motivations, and we can use this as a diagnostic tool for some of the outlooks that people will have or that we will have in ourselves, so we can understand ourselves and what our tendencies are. So it's really good for understanding our underlying fixations, but it's not a tool to fix problems. So basically there's 9 personalities. So there's the reformer, there's the helper, there is the motivator, next is going to be the romantic, the thinker, the enthusiast, the loyalist, the confronter, and then the mediator. So all these 9 personalities will basically have someone that you know or that you might actually fall into the category. So what I'll do is just basically start from first to last and then describe each one. So the reformer is basically always trying to be right? And they're very rigid in their thinking and hate being wrong. Basically, their underlying energy is going to be anger. So it's always going to be pushing them, and they're always trying to push forward with this momentum. You can understand these individuals as perfectionists. So they're all about organization, and usually they're logically correct, but this also is very unhealthy after a while. So understand that all these personalities have negative and positive indicators, so don't think that if you fall into one, then that's going to determine how the rest of your life is always going to be. So next we have the helpers, and these people are more about giving and receiving, love, making people feel good and special. These people are the most emotionally expressive out of all the personalities. And leadership is something that you don't see very common, but it's not something that is impossible for them. It's just because they're always trying to conform and make themselves feel important. So next we have the motivators. And the motivators are basically people who seek attention, are very competitive, right? So you see these people in very high leadership roles, have high self-esteem, but they're also seeking approval from other people. So they're always trying to gauge how they look in other people's eyes. Sometimes this can be very counterproductive when it comes to tasks and stuff like that, because they would be more concerned about looking good instead of doing the work. But when they're healthy, like in the healthy state, these people are one of the greatest leaders that you'll ever see. Sometimes when you see people who are very egotistic, they come out as phony. Extroverts, you have people who are very charming. You see these people taking salesmen's roles. For the introverts, they don't talk much, but they perform a lot more. So they're more about being competent. Next, you have the romantic, right? So this is something that I actually fall into. These individuals try to seek and understand themselves. Prone to more emotion, right, to an unusual depth. So authenticity or the expression of emotion is very important to them. Sometimes they're unusually self-aware and sensitive and intuitive until it becomes painful. These individuals actually take interest in emotional and spiritual growth. They have the capacity to show great kindness, but they also rile people up just because since they want to always seek authenticity, they look for drama just to make their lives exciting. Self-expression and the idea of being a romantic actually has them looking for relationships, right, to high intensity. So this can be very transformative for both people in the relationship, or it can be very devastating, right? Leaving a trail of broken hearts. Sometimes these individuals are looking for the intensity of new relationships. And the downfall of these individuals is that once they indulge, they can get caught up like gambling or buying stuff or drinking or something like that. Next are the thinkers. So these people are the ones that associate best with their minds. So they have sharp intellect and a need for independence and privacy. They always want to explain the world and what is going to happen, right? Because they have this cynical view of the world, and they've basically realized that it's unreliable and unpredictable and hostile. Their minds have always been that one thing that protects them from being hurt from threats. But they have been known to be the greatest minds of history. These individuals are known to teach other people to think differently. They're also brilliant and weird, and sometimes both. Sometimes their thinking is idiosyncratic. This thinking, basically can sharpen their perspective, or they can isolate them. Sometimes these people live lonely lives or something like that, but they have the capacity to push themselves beyond that tendency to be alone. So next we have the loyalists, and these people are basically the most trustworthy people that you're ever going to meet. And these people put safety and loyalty and trust over anything. Sometimes when they get burned, they have this scorn, right, towards people, towards themselves. They stop relying on people or even in their own judgment. Sometimes what will happen will be that they recluse, right, out of fear, or they lash out of anger, depending on what kind of personality they actually have in terms of extrovert and introvert. Usually these people love safety in groups, right, because they work very well in teams. These individuals are probably the most fun, loving, playful, good-hearted, good company, most trustworthy people that you'll have met in your life. Sometimes they're very difficult to understand because they relate to so many people. They're also very good lie detectors because they've been around so many people that they can know when someone's lying to them, or basically knowing so many people talking between the lines, they know when someone is quote-unquote bullshitting. And it's because these people are so analytical. Although they don't feel like they would be great leaders, they can be great leaders. The enthusiasts. And these people are what you would call naturals, right? So they're always trying to live life on action, always trying to pursue dreams and motivations and goals, experience. These people are very exuberant and basically what they call the jack of all trades, right? Very multi-talented people. They have this youthful soul to themselves. They always make you feel young as much as they feel young. Sometimes this can lead to a lot of experience, and they can take a lot of tasks just because they're known to master so many tasks at once. And this can overwhelm people sometimes, but overall, they're really good at improvising. But when it comes to things that are remedial, redundant, or boring, that's basically their kryptonite, because when it comes to mastering tasks, they're really good at it, but they're very slow to finish at things. Next are the confronters. And we all know someone that's like this. Basically, these are the toughest people that we will know, and out of all the personalities. My mom is basically a confronter. And these individuals speak their minds, right? They need a high degree of autonomy and authority. They hate threats to their dominance, and basically when they're very secure within their dominance, they're very generous. And when it comes into being at home, they become protectors instead of confronters. The world's greatest leaders have been confronters, But again, the world's greatest leaders have also been confronters. So the downfall is that sometimes they're tyrannical, or self-serving, or sometimes very self-destructing. But the greatest strength is that they overcome obstacles that people who I guess would be weaker would actually be crushed. Last but not least is going to be the motivators. And these people are very patient people. They're very good listeners. They are accepting and supporting of other people and how they are, but this is also their weakness. Just like everybody else has a weakness, they forget their own needs and their own identity because they also identify with other people. It's really hard to read them just because they're sometimes very indecisive, and the decisions that are hard and even painful are hard for them to do, just like firing someone, because they empathize with a lot of people. Sometimes starting projects is pretty difficult for them, but when they do start them, they're relentless within their pursuits. Kind of like the tortoise and the hare analogy, right? Slow and steady wins the race. So another index that you can use for personalities would be the Myers-Briggs. And basically it's 4 parts to it, right? So it starts with whether you are introverted or extroverted, right? So whether you think things through or you talk things out, they would basically categorize you as introverted or extroverted. So personally, I am a natural introvert, as funny as this seems. But just because I have done the work to get out of my comfort zone, when I took this test, I basically tested as an extrovert, just because I get my energy from talking to people. But I would prefer being alone, reading a book, or I don't know, watching a movie by myself than to be with other people, just because sometimes it takes a lot of energy from me, especially when I go out and I'm trying to meet people to get out of my comfort zone. It takes a lot from me. Next is going to be how we process information, and this is going to be whether we are sensing, right? So this is if we process things in a step-by-step, meticulous kind of thing, methodical, or if we're intuitive, right? So we see the bigger picture and then we basically go from there, right? You can also inductive and deductive reasoning or learning is basically the same thing. Sensing would be the inductive and intuitive would be the deductive. Next is going to be how we make decisions. If we're logical, if we're always thinking, we're basically perceived as thinking. Next, if we, make decisions based on our morals or our emotions or our values, we're basically feeling people, right? Next would be the final way that we organize our lives. So if we're very planned, right, very organized, we're very judging, right? So it's a judging indicator of our personality. And then if we basically take things as they are, we will be perceiving, right? So these individuals are basically, taking things as they are, going with the flow. Basically what I am, and the Myers-Briggs is like 4 individual letters, and so mine would be extrovert, intuitive, perceiving, and feeling, IEFP. So you can use this as well to know how you learn as well, because a lot of teachers use these in their personality quizzes or something like that, so they know what kind of students they have within their classrooms and how they can adjust their teaching to that. Another would be the gifted adult test, which is basically about morals, beliefs, values, and tendencies. And basically what it is that, like I said before, I'm considered a highly sensitive person with highly sensory perception. So I see, feel, hear, taste, and feel things that most people wouldn't feel to my degree just because of some tendency. I'm not really sure. This is kind of like those articles where it says like, oh, if you hate chewing, you're really smart, or if you sleep more, you are very smart, or something like that. So basically what I scored on the test was like 178 or 171 or something like that. It was pretty high. And the problem is that with institutionalism that we have in America, we perceive these individuals, especially when they come from foreign-speaking families, to be remedial, right? So we put them in remedial classes and stuff like that. And that actually happened to me, but the process of understanding is different because we learn differently. And that's all it is, because we take in information differently than other people. And that's all it is, because everybody has a degree to learn, but it's just different for everybody. So I would recommend using that as well. And what we can do with these is basically, again, learn our tendencies, and what we can do to adjust our learning is basically the same thing as making ourselves comfortable, so we can learn, proceed to perceive the world as we do, and not feel the anxiety of being outcast or anything like that, and hopefully progress to prosper in everything that we do. All right, guys. So I'm out and about what I just talked about. Peace.